long-standing precedent, nullify a popular law, or protect a newfangled right, assured that they are getting things right, that they are humbly following the law as originally laid down. But they are not. They distort the very history from which they derive authority. It is past time to confront originalism's use and abuse of history. To meet this moment, this book mounts a comprehensive historical critique of constitutional originalism. It does so by approaching originalism anew. The debate over originalism has been too narrowly focused. As a result, it has skated over many of the fundamental issues implicated by the theory, issues that raise the most urgent questions about originalists' engagement with the constitutional past. In what follows, I attempt to bring these dimly appreciated issues to the surface to formulate a new critique of originalism. It is not only a critique based in history, but one that is intended to show that no critique of originalism is more fundamental than the historical one that cuts right to the theory's foundations. For too long, originalists have bypassed many of the central questions raised by their theory. For too long, they have failed to truly reckon with the history of the American founding. When we recover founding-era constitutionalism on its own terms, we discover how deeply at odds originalism is with the history it claims to recover and enforce as our fundamental law. We see how unoriginalist originalism turns out to be. Originalism's enduring focus. Among the biggest problems with originalism is the narrowness of its vision. This flaw is not rooted in what its advocates explicitly defend, but instead in what they often take for granted and leave unexplored. Most especially, when originalists probe the constitutional past in search of original meaning, their historical investigation is often strikingly narrow and limited. It is typically focused on linguistic meaning, on what the words of different constitutional provisions originally meant, and almost never on the instrument in which those words are found, the Constitution itself. What do important constitutional phrases such as executive power, freedom of speech, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, equal protection of the laws, or full faith and credit mean? In asking these questions, originalists usually assume that the Constitution's essential nature is clear and obvious, that there is little reason to worry if the Constitution as we habitually perceive, describe, and delimit it today is different from the Constitution as it was once perceived, described, and delimited back when it appeared. The Constitution simply is the Constitution. The same now and always, from 1787 to the present day. Originalists at least strive to historicize the Constitution's meaning. The entire originalist enterprise is based on the assumption that original and contemporary constitutional meaning might be different. But originalists give little thought to the prospect of historicizing the Constitution itself. They seldom wonder whether, as with the meaning of particular words and phrases, the Constitution was once understood to be a different kind of thing. Originalism's narrow focus has been one of its hallmarks, but neither its proponents nor its antagonists have much pause to examine it. This is perhaps unsurprising. It is, after all, not hard to understand why there's been relatively little attention paid to the nature of the original Constitution. The Constitution feels familiar. When we confront it, we do so with over 2 centuries of practice, precedent, and experience to draw on. We have been deeply socialized in a set of enduring interpretive traditions that shape our intuitions, organize our conversations, and channel our disagreements. Each new Supreme Court term reinforces these practices, igniting more rounds of public debate shaped by the familiar forms of argumentation and tacit assumptions that have long structured our constitutional culture. It is natural to begin where everyone else seems to start where our historical experience and collective socialization suggest we should. It is hardly surprising that people have intuitively fixated on what particular words, phrases, or clauses might mean, or have sought to trace the chain.